In modern naval warfare, if you lose your GPS, you basically lose your fleet. You're completely blind.
Oh, absolutely. It's game over.
Right. So today, we're looking at how the Indian Navy is rewriting its entire technological DNA, using things like subatomic quantum sensors to ensure that never happens.
Yeah, it's a massive shift.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because we're not just having a casual chat today. Consider this your intensive war room-style analytical briefing on an initiative called self-reliance 2025.
Right, and it's an urgent one.
Exactly. We're looking at a fundamental shift toward national security and strategic autonomy, especially given the, rising geopolitical challenges in the Indian Ocean region.
And strategic autonomy is, it's no longer just a political talking point. I mean, it's a strict operational necessity.
Okay, with the choke points, right?
Yeah, exactly. When you look at the naval choke points in the IOR, relying on imported proprietary tech from foreign nations is a glowing vulnerability. What's fascinating here is the structural shift we're witnessing and how the Indian Navy actually solves this.
Because historically, defense procurement has been this notoriously slow, top-down beast.
It really has. But the documents we're analyzing today reveal a complete rewiring of that system. We're transitioning away from these sporadic innovation challenges to a sustained institutionalized ecosystem.
It's like moving from hosting one-off science fairs to building a permanent, fast-lane tech pipeline, right, straight to the front lines.
That's a great way to look at it. You aren't just handing out a ribbon for a cool prototype, you're plugging that prototype straight into a warship.
Right. So to understand how this machinery works, you need to lock down a few core data points. Think of these as your memory anchors for this briefing.
Always start with the institutions.
Exactly. First, the foundational body here is the NIIO, the Naval Innovation and Indigenization Organization. That was launched on August 13th, 2020. That date is your starting line.
Right, and the NIO was created with a very aggressive mandate. It was built to integrate disruptive tech through the existing IDEX program.
Which is Innovations for Defense Excellence, right?
Yes. IDEX. It essentially acts as the bureaucratic bridge between the massive apparatus of the Navy and the, fast-moving private sector.
Okay, so fast forward to 2022, and the NIO launches the self-reliance initiative, which brings us to the centerpiece of today's deep dive, self-reliance 2025.
The fourth edition.
Right, the fourth edition of this massive technology conference held on November 25th and 26th at the Manekshaw Center in New Delhi. And this operates under the broader umbrella of the DIO, the Defense Innovation Organization.
But to really grasp the gravity of self-reliance 2025, we have to look past the dates. We need to look at the mechanisms. How are they actually doing this?
Right, the actual policy.
Because they had to attack the problem from two sides, the technology itself and the money. The government rolled out a multi-pronged approach that moves way beyond just, throwing grants at startups.
Which historically hasn't worked.
No, it hasn't. So on the tech side, the first objective is accelerating indigenization. That means ruthlessly identifying critical imports, things like propulsion systems, sensors, electronic warfare suites, and replacing them with domestic tech.
And the second objective?
Enhancing rapid prototyping. In defense, development cycles can take a decade. The goal here is to slash that time by integrating startups directly with user directorates.
So putting the engineers in the exact same room as the sailors who will actually use the gear.
Exactly. You completely cut out the middleman and those endless feedback loops.
Makes sense. Okay, so what about the financial side?
Right. So the third objective is expanding the IDEX Navy collaboration through long-term contracts. The fourth is strengthening dual-use innovation.
Dual use meaning military and civilian.
Yes, technology that serves both sectors, like disaster response drones or underwater pipeline inspection bots. This ensures the companies have a broader market so they don't just go bankrupt waiting for a Navy contract.
Right, keeping them financially viable.
And finally, the fifth objective is supporting MSME growth by creating predictable procurement pathways.
And to drive those objectives, they rolled out the new IDEX Sprint challenges, which I have to say, reading the list of these challenges feels like reading a sci-fi script.
It really does. It's incredibly advanced.
I mean, we're talking about marine autonomous systems,
Yeah.
quantum-resistant naval communication,
Yeah.
AI-enabled anti-submarine warfare tools, underwater tactical swarms.
Yeah, the underwater swarms are particularly wild.
Right, and secure microelectronics. But okay, here's my pushback on this. It's really easy to stand at a podium in New Delhi and announce high-end tech goals like underwater swarms.
Sure.
But how does a small five-person tech startup actually survive the massive bureaucratic gap between building a cool prototype and actually securing a Navy contract?
Well, that is the exact vulnerability that has historically killed indigenous defense startups.
Yeah.
In the industry, it's known as the Valley of Death.
The Valley of Death. Wow.
Yeah. A startup gets a small grant, they build a prototype, and then they just run out of cash while waiting 3 years for the military to actually test and approve it.
Because they can't sell it to anyone else in the meantime.
Exactly. But this is where Swaziland Ban 2025 shows a really significant evolution in policy. The Navy responded to that specific criticism by announcing high-value procurement commitments.
Okay, what does that actually mean for the startup?
For the first time, they didn't just offer R&D grants, they announced dedicated procurement targets.
So they're essentially saying, if you build it to our specs, we guarantee we will buy X amount of units.
Yes. And that predictability is what actually keeps these MSMEs alive. You can't pay your engineers with a maybe. A guaranteed procurement target acts as collateral.
Oh, so a startup can take that commitment to a bank.
Exactly. They take it to the bank, they get the loan they need to scale up their manufacturing. Plus, the Navy introduced accelerated testing windows.
Meaning they don't have to wait years for a trial.
Right. Startups get annual product demonstrations on board operational units. And critically, they implemented a life cycle support strategy.
So in plain English, that means the Navy isn't just buying the car, they're making sure the startup is funded to provide the oil changes, the new tires, the software updates for the next 10 years.
That's a perfect analogy. It keeps the MSME deeply integrated into the defense supply chain.
Which ties perfectly into the geographic strategy of all this. Because the government also announced 3 new, highly specialized regional tech hubs, right?
Right.
Innovation corridors.
Yes, 3 distinct corridors. You have the Western Seaboard Naval Tech Corridor, which is focused entirely on autonomous systems.
Okay, WES is autonomous systems.
Then the Eastern Seaboard MRO Tech Corridor. MRO stands for Maintenance, Repair, and Overhaul. And finally, the Southern Aerospace Maritime Fusion Corridor, dedicated to UAVs and space maritime fusion.
Okay, I want to pause on the Eastern Seaboard MRO corridor. Because maintenance and repair sounds a bit, unglamorous compared to underwater AI swarms. Why dedicate an entire tech corridor to it?
Well, because fast maintenance turnaround is what actually keeps a fleet at sea.
Right.
MRO is the gritty, vital reality of naval operations. We're talking dry docks, diagnostics, supply chains for obscure mechanical parts. The Eastern Seaboard has a long history of heavy engineering and shipbuilding, so it's the perfect ecosystem.
Ah, okay, so it's about playing to regional strengths.
Exactly. If we connect this geographic distribution to the bigger picture, you're looking at a masterclass in strategic capacity building. You don't want all your defense tech concentrated in one vulnerable location.
Of course not.
The Southern Corridor taps into India's existing space agencies located down south, fusing them with maritime applications. This regional specialization just makes logistical, economic, and strategic sense.
Okay, so we've covered the structural map and the bureaucracy. Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's dive into the technology itself.
The deep tech.
Yeah, because Swaziland is not just about making ships, it's the physical, steel, and silicon manifestation of Unjammable, self-reliance.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this initiative represents India's transition from mere capability demonstration, proving we can build a drone once, to true strategic autonomy.
Where we control the entire life cycle.
Exactly. Completely free from foreign leverage or sanctions.
And the spearhead of that autonomy is the 12 deep tech thrust areas announced for 2025. So let's zero in on the heavy hitters, starting with quantum tech.
This is huge.
The document specifically mentioned quantum navigation alternatives to GPS-denied environments and quantum-secure encryption. But wait, I need to pause.
Sure.
How does a subatomic particle replace a satellite? I mean, I understand GPS. A satellite pings my phone. How does quantum physics navigate a warship?
Well, it requires a completely different way of thinking about location. As we established, modern warfare is fundamentally about data and positioning.
Right.
In a high-end conflict in the Indian Ocean, the very first thing an adversary will do is spoof, jam, or physically destroy your satellite networks.
And a GPS-denied environment blinds a conventional fleet.
Exactly. But quantum navigation doesn't look up at space. It looks inward, at the subatomic level. It uses highly controlled atoms, often in a state of superposition, to measure changes in gravity and magnetic fields.
With, Microscopic precision.
Terrifying precision. Because the Earth's gravitational and magnetic maps are unique literally everywhere, these quantum sensors can calculate your exact position without receiving a single external signal.
Oh, wow. So because it doesn't need to listen to a satellite, there's absolutely no signal for the enemy to jam.
It is physically unjammable. Add quantum secure encryption to that, which uses quantum mechanics to create unhackable communication links, and you secure your naval data against any future cyber attacks.
Even from advanced supercomputers.
Exactly. It addresses a massive existential cyber and space vulnerability.
Speaking of space, that brings us to another thrust area. Space-Navy integration. The focus here is on real-time satellite-based domain awareness.
Right, and maritime spectrum monitoring. Think of traditional naval radar like walking through a massive pitch-black warehouse with a tiny flashlight. Okay, you only see what's right in front of you.
Right. And worse, if you turn your flashlight on, everyone else in the warehouse knows exactly where you are.
Oh, that's true. The radar emissions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Space Navy integration, specifically leveraging networks of low Earth orbit satellites, is like someone finally flipping on the overhead warehouse lights.
Giving you a god's eye view.
Yes. It gives the Navy a real-time view of the entire operational area. They can track dark shipping vessels that have turned off their transponders to avoid detection.
And they can do that without emitting their own radar.
Yes, they monitor the electromagnetic spectrum from space to detect adversary radar from thousands of miles away, completely passively.
Okay, wait, I need to pause you on the dual use concept we mentioned earlier. Because this is another major thrust area.
Oh, it's critical.
I get how a high-end drone spots an enemy submarine. But how does that exact same military drone help the civilian blue economy? Aren't those entirely different specifications? Military gear is armored, civilian gear is about cost. Well, the core mechanism is often identical, even if the armor is different. An autonomous underwater vehicle designed to use sonar to look for sea mines is essentially just a highly sophisticated underwater scanner.
Right.
With a few software tweaks and different payload sensors, that exact same drone can inspect civilian underwater oil pipelines for microfractures or map deep-sea mineral deposits.
Ah, I see. So by funding this dual-use technology, the Navy ensures these startups aren't solely reliant on defense contracts.
Exactly. And that economic resilience justifies the defense budget to the taxpayer. It transforms naval R&D from a sunk cost into a direct investment in national economic infrastructure.
We're building tech that protects the borders.
Right.
A&E inspects the oil pipelines.
Yes. So when we analyze this, you have to look beyond just the military application. This is a technology transformation engine for the entire country.
Okay, so what does this all mean when the rubber meets the road? Let's transition into a critical evaluation of this framework.
Always important.
We've talked about the high-flying tech, quantum sensors, the warehouse lights, and the impressive policy. But what are the actual on-the-ground gaps? Because no policy is flawless on day one.
No, absolutely not. And the documents themselves tacitly acknowledge the vulnerabilities.
How so?
Well, when a government emphasizes the need to create predictable procurement pathways and reduce entry barriers, they are admitting to a brutal historical reality. Red tape has strangled innovation.
The bureaucracy is still a massive hurdle.
Right. The gap between signing an IDEX contract and actually mass-producing a component for the Navy requires immense capital. A brilliant team of engineers might build a flawless quantum sensor in a lab.
But can they build 500 of them?
Exactly. Do they have the manufacturing capacity, the clean rooms, the supply chain to produce 500 to strict military standards? Usually the answer is no.
Right, the transition from a handmade lab prototype to military-grade mass production is grueling. So how do we fix it? What's the administrative way forward based on the logic of these sources?
The way forward requires aggressive institutional strengthening of the DIO and IDEX framework. They need to facilitate deep public-private partnerships.
PPPs.
Yes. A small, agile startup with a brilliant idea needs to be formally paired with a large, established defense contractor, someone who has the manufacturing muscle and the regulatory know-how.
And what about the testing side?
The Navy needs to expand its onboard trial platforms. Rapid technology adoption only happens if the Navy is willing to dedicate more active ships specifically to testing untested gear in real punishing sea conditions.
Rather than waiting for perfect lab results for 5 years.
Exactly.
All right, listen closely because we are shifting gears. For those of you tracking this for your own professional understanding, or if you're stepping into a briefing room tomorrow and need to distill this entire ecosystem into a powerful summary,
Consider this your executive mentorship session.
Exactly. We're going to convert everything we just discussed into structured takeaways. High-scoring answer preparation. Let's start with the 60-second pitch, the 150-word structure. If you're asked to explain the core impact of IDEX and Swav-Lamban, here are the three pillars you build your argument on.
Start by framing the mechanism clearly in your intro. State that Swav-Lamban 2025 is the NIIO's institutional engine designed to integrate MSME-led defense innovation directly into naval procurement.
Beautiful. Then hit them with the three-body arguments. Pillar 1, rapid prototyping.
Right. Explain how integrating startups directly with user directorates slashes development cycles.
Pillar 2, import substitution. Point to the sprint challenges, specifically calling out secure chipsets and quantum communications.
As the tools to replace foreign dependency.
Right. And pillar 3, predictable procurement. Highlight how the new high-value procurement commitments provide the collateral startups need to survive.
And when discussing the way ahead, use precise administrative vocabulary. Emphasize the need for institutional strengthening to guarantee the lifecycle support of startup technology.
Perfect. Now let's scale that up to the 250-word structure. If you need a more comprehensive strategic brief focusing on self-reliance and emerging naval tech, here is how you structure that narrative.
Your opening context has to be the geopolitical pressure.
Right. State that rising challenges in the Indian Ocean region demand an urgent shift from import dependency to strategic autonomy.
Then break the dimensions of your briefing down geographically and technologically. Geographically, map out the three innovation corridors: west for autonomous, east for MRO, and south for aerospace maritime fusion.
And technologically.
Focus on the mechanisms of the deep tech thrusts. Mention quantum navigation for GPS-denied environments, space Navy fusion for over-the-horizon awareness, and digital twins.
Then show your critical thinking by pointing out the challenges. Don't just cheerlead the policy. Point out the severe entry barriers for MSMEs when transitioning from prototype to mass production.
And provide actionable recommendations based on the text. Propose aggressive public-private partnerships to scale manufacturing, and highlight those dual-use synergies with the blue economy as a financial stabilizer.
Bring it home with a powerful conclusion. State that Swav-Lamban represents a fundamental shift in India's posture from being a net importer of foreign hardware to a primary developer of maritime tech under Atmanirbhar Bharat.
And make sure you are comfortable using the specific keywords in your analysis.
Right. Keywords to underline. NIO, sprint challenges, GPS-denied environments, dual-use innovation, and MRO tech corridor.
Using those specific terms demonstrates that you understand the operational vocabulary of the strategic establishment. You aren't just summarizing, you're analyzing.
All right, take a breath. We're going to close this war room briefing with the cheat codes, the final revision capsule. 5 must-remember facts to lock in everything we've covered. Ready?
Let's do it.
1. The NIIO was launched as the foundational body in August 2020. 2. Swav-Lamban's 4th edition tech conference was held in November 2025.
3. And the Navy established 3 new geographically specialized innovation corridors: west, east, and south.
4. They announced 12 deep tech thrusts, prioritizing unjammable tech like quantum navigation. And 5. There's a massive focus on dual-use tech to link military R&D with civilian economic resilience.
And if you are pressure testing your own understanding, ask yourself this probable exam question. Critically analyze the role of the NIIO's Swav-Lamban initiative in bridging capability gaps within the Indian Navy through MSME integration.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. When you think through that answer, force yourself to connect the key words: strategic autonomy, institutionalized ecosystem, rapid prototyping, and capability acceleration.
We've covered the history, the tech mechanisms, the geography, and the exact bureaucratic solutions driving this transformation. But before we let you leave the war room, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought.
Yeah, we briefly mentioned digital twins and AI modeling in our strategic brief. Let's look at the mechanism of that. Imagine a high-pressure steam valve on a frigate in the middle of the ocean starts vibrating at a slightly abnormal frequency.
It's a tiny vibration.
Right. The digital twin, which is a massive, incredibly detailed virtual simulation of that exact ship running on servers back in New Delhi, registers that vibration data in real time.
Yeah.
It instantly runs thousands of stress simulations and tells the captain that the valve will catastrophically fail in exactly 48 hours. That is the mechanism of capability acceleration.
It's essentially predicting the future to prevent a crisis.
Which raises an incredible question for the future of maritime combat. As we develop AI that can predict mechanical failures before they happen
Yeah.
and deploy autonomous underwater swarms that can react to threats milliseconds faster than a human pilot.
How does that change human command?
Exactly. How will the integration of digital twins and predictive AI fundamentally change human decision-making in the high-stakes, chaotic environment of a conflict? Will the naval captain of the future be a tactical decision-maker relying on instinct and experience, or simply a manager overseeing the decisions made by highly advanced AI systems?
That is the real frontier. When the machine knows the ship better than the captain does, the entire hierarchy of command shifts.
It's a completely new paradigm.
We've moved far past the days of those one-off science fairs we talked about at the beginning. We're looking at a permanent, fast-lane tech pipeline that is fundamentally altering the DNA of naval warfare. Thank you for your dedication to this intensive deep dive today. Keep connecting those dots, keep asking the hard questions about how these mechanisms actually work in the real world, and keep mastering the material. We'll see you next time.